Hey guys, it's Mystic here with a new podfic, and today I am reading part 3 of the Shadow Sensei, the Vigilante Heroics Teacher series by Silver Roses and Dragons. The part 3 is called Vigilante Kid, and I do hope you guys will enjoy this. It's going to be added to the playlist like all the other episodes in this, with all the other parts, and I'll be recording the part 4 hopefully soon. I was supposed to record this over the weekend, but I was in Montreal for a convention, and it was scorching hot, and it was very much exhausting. And if you do cosplays or go to conventions, you know how it can get very draining on somebody. So this is getting posted a little later than planned, but it's gonna be posted as soon as I'm done recording this. I'm just gonna be posting it like right away. So sorry. Without further notice, let's get started. So this is A Vigilante Kid by Silver Roses and Dragons. Eraser had of course heard of the new vigilante in the area, though he hadn't come across them yet. Even though his patrol route covered some of the places where he'd been seen, other heroes who had seen them described them as green and said that they were good at sticking to the shadows and staying unnoticed when they wanted to, which may explain why Eraser hasn't come across them yet. It has been about a month from when Eraser first heard about the vigilante whom the heroes and police referred to as Greenie or Green Shadow. When he first met the kid, he was on his regular patrol route when he heard a commotion from down an unlit alley and had a high-pitched scream. He quickly made his way to the alley, ready to stop an attack. But when he got to the roof of the building next to the alley, there was already a woman running away towards the street, and a large man was quickly incapacitated by a much smaller person in a dark-colored hoodie. He wondered for a moment if he should stop the smaller person or maybe offer up assistance. When they pulled up zip ties out of their pockets in what appeared to be cargo pants, though it was hard to tell from the angle he was at with the low light, they tied the larger man's hands together behind him and then quickly left the alley. Eraserhead moved to the front of the roof to watch as they went onto the street. With the street lamps on the streets, Eraser could see that the hoodie was a dark green color, and they were wearing dark army green cargo pants, as well as a black surgical mask. That he looked around quickly and then started hearing towards the shaking woman. Eraserhead quickly noticed that it was the same woman who ran off out the alleyway a few minutes ago. He was about to jump down to interfere, not wanting to risk that this same person was another bad guy. Then they called out, "Ma'am." They stopped a few feet away from her huddled form. "The man who was trying to hurt you is tied up now. He won't be able to hurt you anymore, but I need you to tell me if you're hurt. Can you do that?" The woman looked up, her eyes wide and watery. I hit my head and my arm." She paused to rub at it. "He grabbed me here." "Okay. Will you let me come closer so I can check your injuries?" Then when I call the police to pick him up, I can let them know if you need medical treatment." Okay." They moved slowly as they approached and crouched down in front of her. "Can you show me where you hit your head?" She did, and they inspected the area. "Well, there's no blood, so that's a good sign. Does your head feel fuzzy at all?" Kinda, but that's usually what happens when I'm scared." "Well, is it something a medic should probably look at. I'll let the police know when I call, okay? Okay. Now, can you tell me your name? Naomi. Okay, Naomi-san. I'm gonna call the police. You stay here, okay? The woman nodded tearfully, then stepped away, pulling out a flip phone. They were closer to Eraserhead, so he could still hear as they lowered their voices. Hi, dispatch? Yes, I'm calling to report an assault and attempted rape. The suspect is incapacitated. The victim, Naomi-san, has minor bruising and possible head injury. Yes, we're in Aki Ward, the third block in front of the building 7. No, I won't be here when the cops arrive. Naomi-san will be able to tell you what happened. The voice sounded younger than Eraserhead had expected. Considering how professional they're being, they went back over to the woman. Naomi-san, the police are on their way, along with a medic to check on your head. They should be here in a few minutes. Are you going to be all right here until then? You're not staying? The woman asked, sounding upset and fearful. I'm going to watch over you until they get here. Somewhere that they won't be able to see me. I'm a vigilante, you see, and I don't want them to try to arrest me if that happens. I might have to choose between being arrested, meaning I wouldn't be able to help anyone anymore, or risk hurting someone trying to get away. Neither of those sound like a good option to me. I promise that I won't actually leave until they're here, okay? The woman took a deep breath and then bowed slightly from her seated position. Okay, thank you. You don't need to thank me, but you're welcome, they said, then disappeared back into the alley. Eraserhead heard a quiet sound of someone climbing the fire escape while trying to be quiet. As soon as a head appeared over the edge of the roof he was crouching on, he waited until they were fully on the roof, not wanting them to fall, before he said, Well, that was quite a show, kid. It turned out that he was right to wait as the kid startled. Jumping a little, jerking their head to look at him. Now that the kid was closer, Eraser thought that they were male, based on their body type. Hi. Izuku looked up at him with wide eyes. What are you? Wait, are you Eraserhead? Eraserhead was surprised to be recognized, as it doesn't happen very often. Still, he just nodded. Yeah, I'm assuming you're the one that they're calling the Green Shadow. Yes, it's a silly name, I know, but I didn't pick it, he said with a sheepish shrug. Are you going to try and arrest me? He looked sad, watching Eraserhead with large eyes that looked a little wet. No, kid, I'm not. I don't see any reason to, as long as you're not too violent or putting yourself in serious danger, Eraserhead said. Okay, cool. Well, have a nice night, Eraserhead-san, he said, taking a few steps away. Kid, Eraserhead calls out, stopping him before he gets to the edge of the roof. He pulls a business card out of his utility belt and holds it out. If you ever need backup or something, call me, okay? Don't get yourself hurt because you're scared to ask for help. Okay, thanks, the kid said, taking the card and quickly jumping off the roof. Eraserhead started coming across the kid more after that, seeing him along his patrol route and occasionally helping him with a takedown. The kid usually disappeared fairly quickly once the villain or criminal was taken down, though Eraser always tried to get him to stay and talk a little. About a month and a half after their first encounter, Eraser got fed up with the kid always running away from him. He came across the kid near the end of his patrol one night, and it was one of the few times that neither of them needed to worry about villain when they met. Considering this, Eraser made a decision. Hey, Eraser, the kid said. Have a nice rest of your night. He immediately moved to continue on his way, but Eraser wasn't going to let that happen that night. Kid, wait up, he said. The kid paused, turning back to blink at him. Come with me. Pass. I really don't feel like getting arrested tonight, thanks. The kid said, moving to start running in the other direction. Eraser caught his capture weapon to catch the kid. I'm not going to arrest you. I just want to talk. If you won't stay willingly, I will make you. But you'll be free to go when we're done talking. The kid looked skeptical, but slumped a little within his restraint. Fine, he mumbled. Eraser nodded and released the boy from his capture weapon, keeping a close eye out to be sure he didn't make a run for it. Follow me, he said. He led them to a park that seemed abandoned that late at night, or really that early in the morning. What do you want me to call you, kid? You didn't seem to like the name the police or other heroes have given you very much. Oh, well, I haven't really thought about it, the kid said. Maybe just Shadow? People you work with usually call you Eraser, right? Like a nickname. All right, kid. Shadow it is, then. Eraser said. Now, show me your gear. What? The kid, Shadow, said, blinking at him. Your gear, kid. Weapons, first aid, whatever. Show me what you carry when you go on patrol. Why? The kid asked, his hands going defensive to his hip. Not like he was going to pull a weapon, but like he was reassuring himself that something was still there. So I can make sure it's sufficient? Eraser said. Look, kid, I'm a teacher. You can't be any older than some of my students. I don't want to see you get hurt if I have the opportunity to help you. The kid hesitated some more, but eventually slumped his shoulder. Fine, he said again. He started pulling things out of his pocket of his cargo pants, laying them out on the nearby picnic table for Eraserhead to inspect. A moment later, a collection of tools was laid out on the table. Not exactly one that Eraserhead was happy with. There was a utility knife, the kind that you'd be found at any kind of outdoor store, which was probably the best tool the kid had. There was also a multi-tool, a decent amount of bandages, zip ties, and a couple of pipes, a piece of a pipe, and a slingshot. Actually, maybe the slingshot was the best. It was a long-distance weapon at least. Eraser sighed. Well, the knife and the slingshot are definitely a good idea. And so are the bandages. He started, not wanting to put down the kid's choice in gear. That being said, this is nowhere near close to sufficient. I don't exactly have access to sport tech. It's not like I have tons of money to buy stuff anyway, the kid said, sounding defensive. Eraser sighed. I know, I just don't like the idea of you being out on the streets unprepared. Here's the deal. I can't legally provide you with weapons or anything of the like, but I will help you stock up on medical supplies. Don't complain. You might need to give a civilian emergency first aid at some point, and I expect you to do your research into first aid on your own. Understand? He said, using his teacher voice to get the message across. Yes, sir, the kid mutters, hanging his head slightly. Good. Eraserhead nodded. Now, I will also be helping you train with this makeshift weapon you already have, or can get your hands on yourself as well as parkour and hand-to-hand. The kid head snapped up at that. What? Why? Because I don't want you to die, kid. You're going to train with me twice a week around my patrol until I feel that you are less likely to get yourself killed. Understood? Yes, sir, the kid said again, seemingly responding to his no-nonsense tone of voice. Good. Eraserhead said, Eraserhead said, then dropped into a ready stance. Not that most people would be able to tell with how relaxed he looked. Now, show me what you've got. What? The kid started to say before dodging a lazy punch. What the fuck? We're sparring. Try to hit me back while still defending yourself. What's this? What's this? Shadow asked a few weeks later. They just finished their training session for the day, and Eraserhead handed him a bento. Food. Eat. Was all the man said in explanation. What? But, why? Because you're too small, and my husband's a softie. The kid blinked for a moment before he slowly said, Right, your husband. You talk about me at home? Of course I do, Eraser said. He and Shadow haven't talked about their families very much yet, but he doesn't feel the need to hide it from his kid. He trusts Shadow enough to feel comfortable sharing general information about his life outside of work. I always tell my family some about my patrols, and you have been around for quite a few of those recently. Right, Shadow said. He slowly opened the bento. He hesitated and turned away before pulling his mask down to eat. Thank you, he said as he handed the empty box not too long later. And please thank your husband for me as well. The food was very good. He'll be glad to hear that. Eraserhead smiled tiredly back. Why did you become a vigilante? Eraserhead asked about 4 months after the two met. They were sitting side by side at the rooftop, and Shadow was eating the bento Eraserhead had brought him every night. It was the end of Eraser's patrol, and the two had been in a mild fight together not too long before. There was a long silence, and Eraserhead assumed that the kid was going to ignore the question. But eventually, he said quietly, I don't know. I've always wanted to help people, to save people. I wanted to be a hero my whole life, but I finally got it through my head that it's not possible. I guess I didn't really mean to become a vigilante at first. It just started with helping a few people, and then it became a habit, and I couldn't stop. Eraserhead listened carefully. Though he didn't look at the kid, he watched the city waking up below them, knowing that the kid was trusting him not to look at his face. Why do you think you couldn't be a hero? You're obviously plenty capable. Because no hero school would ever admit me. Most wouldn't even let me sit the entrance exam after one look at my paperwork, the kid said, sounding sad. You have marks on your record? Eraser asked, surprised. He didn't actually know who the kid was. Sure, but he liked to think he knew Shadow pretty well. By that point, he couldn't ignore that the kid. He couldn't imagine that the kid doing anything bad enough to automatically exclude him from the entrance to most hero schools. Something like that. The kid's voice sounded bitter. Look, don't worry about it. I can be a hero, but I can do this. I can help people. Eraser doesn't want to drop it, but he knows that pressing for more will only push the kid away. All right, problem child, if that's what you want. He reached over and ruffled his hand gently over the kid's hood, carefully not to dislodge it. The kid sighed and leaned into him a little. The problem child seemed more tired than normal. Not in I didn't sleep well yesterday way, but in a haven't slept well on days and stressed way. Eraserhead recognized it because he's seen it on himself plenty of times. Is something wrong, Shadow? He risked asking. You seem a little off lately. The kid shook his head. I'm fine. It's just, well, I'm kinda, homeless now. I mean, not really homeless, but my mom kicked me out, so I guess familyless would be more accurate. You could stay with me, Eraserhead said, before he could even fully process what the kid said. And without deciding to. He meant it, though when he thought about it, he already cared for this kid, and he didn't think that Hisashi and Hitoshi would really mind. The kid let out a chuckle, but it was disbelieving and self-deprecating. No, thank you though. Why not? Eraserhead asked. He couldn't stop himself. The kid stares at him, like he's lost his mind for a moment. I don't even want you to see my face, Eraser. You know nothing about my real identity, my history, my quirk. Trust me, it wouldn't work out. Besides, you have a family. A family that would include you, he wanted to say, but didn't. Instead, he sighed. If you ever change your mind, or you need anything, you have my number. Thanks, Eraser, the kid said. I'll keep that in mind. The first time Eraserhead saw the kid's face was not ideal. He almost would have rather not seen it at all, considering the circumstances. The kid had gotten over his head in a fight with multiple villains, and by the time Eraserhead arrived, the kid was already hurt more than anything. He was glad that he had been close enough to hear the commotion, even though it meant he had to see the kid get slammed into a wall and not get back up. He took care of the two hulking villains still standing, and then bound the one the kid had managed to take down before he got there. Glad that none of them had mutation quirks, he called Tsukashi. Tsukashi before pickup before rushing to where Shadow was slumped against the ground unconscious. Problem child, he said, gruffing, shaking his shoulder. Can you wake up for me? When he got no response, he sighed and started checking for injuries. There was blood on the back of the kid's head, but not enough to really worry about. Wanting to make sure that he didn't miss any injuries, he carefully removed the kid's jacket. Luckily, all he could see on the kid's arm were regular bruises, and when he pushed the t-shirt underneath up to check his ribs, it didn't seem like anything was broken. He took the kid's mask off to check his face for injuries, and he got his first good look at it. Shadow's cheeks and nose were heavily freckled and his face was tanned, implying he spent a decent amount of his time outside in the day as well as the night. Luckily, he didn't have a broken nose, though his face was a little puffy and starting to bruise, showing that he had taken a hit there during the fight. Eraser was just glad that the kid wasn't hurt worse. Eraser? He heard a voice call out. Eraser? He heard a voice call out not long after finished checking the kid over. He put the kid's mask back on and looked up to see the police had arrived. Sirens off because it wasn't an emergency, seeing as the criminals had already been detained. Tsukashi, he said in response, standing and stepping towards the detective. Who's that? One of the criminals? The man asked, stepping closer. Oh, you're Vigilante? Eraserhead wanted to protest at the idea that the kid was his Vigilante, but he didn't get a chance. Is he okay? Eraserhead sighed. I'm not sure. Nothing seems to be broken, but he hasn't regained consciousness since he was thrown into the wall. Well, I called medical, but just in case anyone needed it, so you can have them check him over, the detective said with a shrug. That's one way to lose all the trust I've managed to gain from him. Eraserhead paused, regarding Tsukashi. You aren't going to try to arrest him, are you? Officially, I have to give the opportunity. Unofficially, I'd rather he stay free. He's good at this, and vigilante reform programs are really difficult to get into. Besides, he's helping us out, the detective said, lowering his voice at the last part. You can instruct the paramedics to leave his mask on if you already checked the injuries yourself. No one else needs to see his face unofficially, of course. Just don't tell anyone who he is. Of course not. He's just a student that was helping me on patrol, Eraserhead said. It wasn't even really a lie. Shadow was a student, even if the boy didn't go to UA. Takashi sighed but nodded. Walking over to help collect the criminals. Stop by the station to give your report within the next 24 hours, Eraser. He called over his shoulder, and Eraser didn't bother responding, all his focus on the kid in front of him. When medical arrived, they gave the kid the all-clear, thank goodness. The kid freaked out when he woke up in a stretcher, though he looked around in panic before his eyes locked onto Eraser. After a moment, he glared. Why am I in an ambulance? Shadow asked, and Eraser could hear the fear hidden under the defensive anger. Because you were thrown into a wall and didn't regain consciousness? Don't worry, kid. None of the medics saw your face. Your mask is still on. The man explained. Shadow narrowed his eyes at the bro. But someone did. Otherwise, you would be reassuring me that no one saw my face. Damn, the kid was too smart and observant for his own good. Yeah, kiddo. I checked you for injuries before anyone else got here, Eraserhead admitted. You don't have to worry, though. You know I have no interest in arresting you. I don't want you to know who I am, Eraser, the kid said sharply at the hero. The hero was a bit surprised to hear him use that tone with him. The kid wrapped his arms around himself, and Eraser quickly realized that was because the kid was trying to hide how vulnerable he was feeling. I don't know who you are, kiddo, he said calmly, placatingly. I would recognize you if I saw you unmask again, sure, but I couldn't exactly figure out your identity just from your face without a lot of hard work that I have no reason to put in. I'm sorry that I saw your face when you weren't ready for me to, but it doesn't change anything, Shadow. Shadow studied him for a long moment, seeming to assess the truthfulness. You saw how young I am, though. How young I look, at least, the kid said, the last part added on hurriedly, as just remembering not to give more away than he had to. We already knew you were young. We've known that you were young since the beginning, kid. And sure, you're a bit younger than I assumed, but it doesn't really change anything, Eraser assured. I still don't want to arrest you. I still am going to teach you, and be there for you. And I still just want you to be safe, I promise. The kid took a deep breath, visibly steeling himself before he said, Okay, am I good to go then? Not quite. You haven't eaten your bento yet, Eraser said with a smirk, pulling it out and handing it over to the boy, whose eyes lit up at the mention of the cold food. Thanks, he mumbled. Can't even be old enough to be on your own for this long, Eraserhead said one day, and the kid had been on his own for a month and a half. The kid snorted and shook his head. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. Are you even old enough to be in high school yet? I know the foster system is fucked, but it can't be worse than living on the street. The kid scoffed in response. The streets are safer. Trust me. Kids like me don't survive the foster system. Eraser frowned. I know it's bad, but kids don't actually disappear from the system very often. And you wouldn't be put in a place where you were in real danger. Existing in this world puts me in danger, Eraser. Japan would rather I disappear. I could be attacked in broad daylight in front of dozens of witnesses and the police wouldn't even investigate. No daylight pros would save me if I was caught up in a villain attack once they realize who I am. That's just how the world works. Kid, why do you think that? Eraserhead asked, taken aback by the callous way the kid said all that. The kid looked away, and Eraserhead could see his shoulders tense as he paused to run and block a blow. As he paused to run or block a blow. I'm quirkless. Eraser didn't know how to respond to that. He froze for a solid minute. What the kid said about not being able to get into hero schools made much more sense now. Most schools consider quirklessness as an unforgivable black mark. When he finally snapped out of it, he could only think to say was, "Kiddo, don't," the kid said, voice sounding choked. "I'll go. It was nice knowing you, Eraserhead." He only got 2 steps away before Eraser drew himself together enough to respond. "Shadow," he said. He couldn't make it better. He couldn't make it better. Everything the kid said was true for quirkless people after all. So he didn't try. "Where do you think you're going? We still have training to do." It was the kid's turn to freeze then. Slowly, he turned back to face the underground hero. You still want to train me, even though I'm a Deku?" Eraser crossed his arms. "I don't allow that kind of language from my students. Humans lived and fought without quirks for thousands of years before the dawn of quirks. Besides, I fight mostly quirkless. I have the advantage that most of my opponents can't use their quirks when they fight me, but against mutant quirks, I'm functionally quirkless. If I can't fight like that, so can you. Besides, you've already proven your ability to me in the time we've known each other. Your quirk status doesn't change that." Eraserhead could see Shadow's eyes crinkle with a smile over his face. "Okay." And that's the end of this podfic. So that was the part 3 of this series. I'll be recording the next one soon. I find this is very wholesome. I'm sorry for all the settling and rereading. I work night shifts, so I'm pretty tired, and it makes it kind of hard sometimes to read. And for some reason, my mouth kind of feels dry, but super wet at the same time. It's annoying as shit, and I've been drinking in between, so I can be able to stay hydrated, because I've been given tips from people in comments, and even then, it does not help that much. But hopefully my phone has the recording app has a good enough background sound canceling, because I know the chair I'm on was creaking, and then, for example, the keyboard when I was scrolling, and then, because I'm recording this at work, so it's not the greatest place to record, but my room, you can hear everything from the kitchen to the piping to everything. And then, so my options is either I record in the car or I record when I'm at work, because I have to wait till I move my apartment to record when I'm at home. So that's why it's making it quite hard to record often, but I'm gonna keep doing my best. This was a really good fic, I find. It's sad, but also kind of in a wholesome way, because of the way Izuku sees himself, but Eraser is just you know what? You're my son. I'm gonna take care of you. I don't care. This bitch be and then the way he just be yes, I accept your boundaries. I'll do my best to respect them, and then just doing his best to understand. And then the way he understood once he was Midoriya said he was quirkless is so sad, but at the same time it's so sweet how he just fuck that, you know. I'm still gonna train you. Come back here. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be recording the next part after I do some of my work, because I'm still at work, even though I don't have that much work to do during night shifts. But I'm gonna record the next part hopefully soon, and then I'm also gonna be recording the new parts of the new chapters of, I think it's called Innocent Eyes. But yeah, so that's what it is. If you guys have any recommendations, please send them. Also, if you have any other fandoms you want me to read for, I know somebody asked for Gravity Falls because the fandom is coming back. I used to be really, really into the fandom. I read so many of the fics, but to be honest, right now it's kind of like finding something in Gravity Falls I'm really into. I have to really go back to rewatch all of Gravity Falls, get back into it before I read stuff. And what kind of fan fiction I read in the past compared to now has really changed. So finding my kind of cup of tea in new fandoms can be a bit harder. So if you guys have any suggestions for any new fandoms, right now I'm kind of still looking at some miraculous ones. I have a nice list. I'm gonna rewatch Gravity Falls and post some of those. I'm thinking of maybe doing a few Madoka Magica ones and adding a few like new things out in the mix, you know, kind of spicing some things up, especially since it's been almost I think almost a year since I posted my first video, since I actually started making these properly from the beginning kind of thing. So yeah. Also, I just want to tell you guys that I do have, years back, I made podfics for Sander Sides, and I have like 40 episodes posted, and they're super cringe and super embarrassing. But I do have them on unlisted, but I have them in a playlist. So if you guys want to find it, you can search for it. But it's not directly available on there, so it's kind of just a little like sneak peek at my beginning, because we all start somewhere, to be honest, and some parts can be embarrassing and some parts can be less. I was pretty young when I made those videos, but here I am now, and things couldn't even be better, you know, like I'm happy at where I am with the channel. I don't have that many followers, but to be honest, it's just like a small community and makes me happy, and I'm able to reply to all the comments. I love reading the people's comments, and sometimes I send my friends like, oh my god, look at these comments, oh my god, this is so sweet, and all these things, and it's really encouraging. But anyway, I rambled on for a bit too long now. Like I said, any suggestions, any fandoms, anything, let me know. I'm also going to hopefully be doing some Danmei fanfiction soon. So, if you do like Danmei, give me just a little comment to be like, hey, yeah, I'd be interested. I just want to see what you guys are into. But if you're just here for the My Hero stuff, stay for the My Hero stuff. I really do hope that this is not the last season, though, because I am gonna cry because I've been watching this since the fucking first season came out, and it's gonna be so fucking weird not having it, you know? Like, it's been such a large part of my life. Just the thought of it ending feels miserable. So, anyway, without further notice, I hope you guys have a lovely day, morning, wherever, whenever. I just have a wonderful time. Don't forget to eat, drink water. Please take care of yourself, especially if you live in areas where it's really hot right now. Please drink lots of water, take breaks, try getting some shade. I know the heat is rough these times, at least in the North America areas. But yeah, I guess this is the end of the video. Bye, guys.